some breaking visuals that we are picking up this afternoon. Afghan citizens are staging a protest against Pakistan. This comes as the ISI chief is currently in Kabul. Reports also suggesting that Taliban has opened fire at some of those protesters. Videos now show people running around as gunfire can be heard amidst these protests. Sreeram Chaulia is joining us on the phone line. Mr. Chaulia, that's exactly what we've seen every time someone from within Afghanistan has voiced their opinion against Taliban in particular. Once again, we see protests now emerging, not just against Taliban, but also Pakistan's involvement, and the reaction to the same being met with gunfire being opened at those protesters.
They are back to their usual form of trying to intimidate the civil society. See, the people who are protesting are actually ordinary citizens and well-meaning Afghans who do not want more war and bloodshed, but want justice. See, what these Talibs are doing is they are imposing with the Pakistani agenda, they are imposing a kind of outcome that the people of Afghanistan do not prefer at all. So, and there is no democratic mechanism left to measure the legitimacy of this new regime. So they are obviously going to impose this emirate in whatever form, and there will be no elections whatsoever. So how can so what is the outlet for people? They have to come out and protest like this. Women are protesting. The Afghan, ordinary Afghans who are outraged by Pakistan's intervention and invasion are protesting. Ethnic minorities are protesting. So you look at it, almost all entire society, barring some hardline religious clerics and conservative Maulavis, except them, because those groups are being patronized by Taliban and are being used to create social control. But except those hardline religious groups, bulk of the society is not with them. And I think people realize after seeing what happened in Panjshir and after hearing, see, slowly the information is getting around now. More and more videos, more and more audio clips are being shared. So people are realized that there is a large Pakistani presence inside Afghanistan now. Very large. So ISI chief's presence is symbolic because they are trying to say that we have colonized Afghanistan. That's what ISI chief is trying to show. And people are outraged. People, Afghan people realize that it is because of Pakistan that they have been sunk into so much misery and war and terrorism for so many decades. This goes back a long time, the hatred for Pakistan, and now they are coming out because they have no other option left. There is no other recourse left except to show the world that the real cause of this whole mess and the complete chaos that's going on and the fear is Pakistan. So unless the Afghan people express their nationalism like this, there is going to be no check and balance on this new government. So people realize, even the Panjshir movement have been saying that we want to negotiate so that there is autonomy for provinces, so that there is an inclusive government, so that there is a power sharing, so that there is a dignity for the ordinary citizens. This is what Pakistan does not want. So that's why people realize that the number one enemy to peace and stability and order in the country is Pakistan. So I think they have identified the right culprit. And like Ahmad Masood and his group have been saying, the world community should actually shine a light on the nefarious activities of Pakistan inside Afghanistan. They are the ones who enabled this regime change or this coup and this toppling of the government. And they are trying to be the kingmakers now. So people will not accept this. Afghans are a proud nation. They may have not resisted Taliban, thinking that these are, at the end of the day, they are our brothers and we are a part of the same community. But they will never accept the outside interference of Pakistan like this, which is so blatant, so shameful, and actually quite brazen. So I think Pakistan should get the message from this. They should realize there is a resistance forming, and it is not only limited to peaceful protests. There are going to be guerrillas moving across the Durand line. The Pakistani Taliban have already attacked Pakistani forces in Quetta recently, and more of this blowback is going to come and burn Pakistan because they have played with fire before. So I think Afghan people really, we have to salute their fearlessness. They are being even beaten and, like you said, even harassed with gunfire. And in some cases, protesters have even disappeared. Or there have been knocks on the door at midnight by Taliban. And Pakistan ISI, it's being said that they have got hold of a lot of data about the Afghan citizens and targets. So they are going to set up a kind of a surveillance system to terrorize ordinary people, ordinary Afghans. So that makes this is going to be a police state. If Pakistan has its way, this will become a police state, one where there is a lot of oppression and injustice. So people don't want police state. People want some kind of dignity to be maintained. So they realize that the oppressor is coming from Rawalpindi. And that's why the outburst of patriotism against Pakistan. And this is not going to be confined. The whole world is watching and people know what Pakistan is doing, and we have to expose this, because otherwise the Afghan people will be left helpless. They need solidarity and they need support from all of us outside in the rest of the world, so that Pakistan is sanctioned and Pakistan is forced to go back.
Because that's the treatment being meted out, isn't it, Dr. Chaulia, to women who are taking to streets to protest against Taliban, and now to these Afghan civilians who are protesting against Pakistan's interference as well. Let's play out those clips that we are essentially picking up. They're all visuals floating on social media, bringing you the ground reality of Afghanistan. So those are the visuals. Dr. Chaulia continues to be with us. Dr. Chaulia, this time around, we are, of course, seeing people come out in large numbers and take to streets time and again, be it women and children, be it, a mix of both, and on different issues as far as the Taliban regime is concerned. But this is also the sentiment that perhaps the likes of Ahmad Masood are able to sense from Panjshir, and why, he's giving out that call for a national uprising against Taliban and their atrocious ways and means.
Yeah, you see, people, of course, are tired of war and revolution and violence. So they have suffered a lot in the last 40 years. Since 1979, there's been some kind of, an endless insurgency, counterinsurgency, and all these things going on in Afghanistan. So I think, but people also have some sense of dignity. They, especially in the urban centers, they have tasted some sense of, personal freedoms, liberties, and to some extent equality between the sexes and all these things. Now, all of those are in jeopardy. Even the educational institutions across Afghanistan are being ordered either to segregate or simply to stop girls from attending. So, you see, the agenda is very clear. They believe that is how they can control the country, and the Pakistanis who are advising them are also giving them the same, suggestions that the way to establish social control and to build a new state is by giving maximum power to the imams and the mullahs and to suppress the population. And already the Taliban, one of the first things they did when they entered Kabul is they called so-called all the religious teachers of the madrasas and the imams, and they gave them total power. They said, now this country is yours. We are going to run it together. So this is the agenda of Pakistan. They want a state that is a theocratic state. They want a state that is centralized. They don't want autonomy, because if there is autonomy, then people will challenge Pakistani interference in the country. And they want a kind of a brutal dictatorship. That is their goal. And although Pakistani officials occasionally are saying we also want inclusive government, it is a sham. We know this. The rest of the region and most of the world wants inclusive, but Pakistan does not, because their control, their agenda of colonizing or having hegemony or strategic depth in Afghanistan will not be fulfilled if there is autonomy and if there is dignity for all. Because the moment you give freedom to people, Afghan people, they will immediately say the source of the problem is Pakistan. The source of the problem is across the border. And we have to stop them. We have to push them back. We have to throw them out of our country. So that's what they don't want. So this is a kind of, and most of the the leaders, the ones who received a religious training in Pakistan, in the madrasas and in the seminaries in Karachi, in Khyber, these are the people who are now wanting to dominate the new system. The Haqqani is also part of the ISI, extended arm of ISI. So they have an agenda, anti-people agenda. It's a colonial anti-people agenda, and people realize, there are many provinces where Taliban were taking over, they were shouting Urdu slogans, Nara Takbir, Allahu Akbar. These are all hardcore Pakistani elements who have infiltrated, and people realize that there are foreigners out there who are now going to control their lives. How can Afghans accept it? So Taliban, of course, they say we are not puppets and we are independent of Pakistan and we are nationalists. Well, they should prove it. If they don't prove it, and if they go by Pakistani agenda and serve the Pakistani masters as they have done in the past, if they do not show independence or autonomy from Rawalpindi, Afghan people are not going to sit quiet. This is just the beginning of a long resistance we will see, both violent and non-violent forms, because Afghan people at the end of the day are very proud.
Because they've already started showing their true colors, be it against the anti-Taliban resistance movement in Panjshir, be it against women and children and innocent Afghan citizens. Thank you, Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, for sharing that perspective with us.